Hi, it's Ileana. Today I'm going to be sharing my findings. I'm doing a new project about the UFOs in my vicinity. I've had experiences seeing UFOs since 2015 near the home of where I used to live in South Surrey at first. And basically I would every night around 10 p.m., 11 p.m., when I would go for my nightly walks, I would see these triangular shaped UFO craft every night from 2015 until 2019, and I've moved several times since then. I moved to Kelowna, then I moved back to Surrey White Rock area. This is in British Columbia, Canada. We are a hotspot for UFOs, for abductions by greys, reptilians, service into the secret space program, and I've taken hundreds of photos of the UFOs ever since that time. I wanted to document the history of what I was witnessing, the triangular craft, the circular craft. I've seen many different types of craft, and they all have heat signatures. Recently, I put all those photos since 2016 to 2019. I put them through thermal imaging. The reason I did that was to see how many of the crafts have a heat signature, and all of them do. The photographs look like I was photographing light ships or something like that, because all these UFOs, you see them with your physical eyes, you see them as the triangular crafts or the saucer-shaped crafts or the cigar-shaped crafts. But when you go to photograph them, they emit a light frequency shield. So you're photographing the photons of the light shield, or you're photographing the energetic frequency of the UFO. When you're filming it on video, you get the same thing. Sometimes you're getting a shape, like a triangular craft, if it's a nuts and bolts reverse engineered craft. If it's an extraterrestrial crafts or SSP crafts, they're seamless. They don't have the nuts and bolts of how these UFOs are built, or UAPs. They're seamless. There's basically no sections that have angles, or they're not held with anything man-made. So it's seamless surfaces of the metallic structures or whatever material they're using to build the UFOs. For the extraterrestrial stuff and the SSP stuff, you're not going to see seams. You're not going to see nuts and bolts. You're going to see a perfect UFO. But back to the history. Kelowna, British Columbia, Canada, has a history of triangular UFOs being spotted in Lake Country, in central Kelowna, and the saucer-shaped craft. People report UFO sightings on websites that track the history of the UFOs. And Kelowna is huge. Look at all this stuff. There's a lot of UFOs. I lived there only for 3 months, and every night when I went out there from August 17th, the day I moved in, until October 2017. So I moved there August 17th, 2017, and I left Kelowna October 10th, 2017. It was not a good place for me to live. Energetically, Kelowna has radon gas, and for people with weak immune systems or compromised immune systems, that is not a place where you want to be. And it was also energetically felt like a fishbowl. The energy there was bad. I don't mean to demean the place. Some people think it's beautiful. Some people love living there. But it was not enough green space for me, not enough water. And just the radon gas really made me sick physically. And every night I had UFO sightings. Every night, just like I had in South Surrey in the White Rock area, I would get a visit. I felt like they were watching me, they were tracking me. I felt it was the secret space program. And I've been abducted by reptilians when I was a young kid living in Ukraine. I was born in Ukraine, then I moved to Israel. Those are all places where supernatural and paranormal activity happens. The Holy Grail, the place fighting for freedom, all of that stuff in those countries. To me, I was born in places where I should be to experience what I needed to experience. The UFO stuff, I saw my first white UFO with a sort of like a gyroscope type of a frequency to it. I saw that in Ukraine when I was 3 years old, walking with my grandfather. That's the first UFO I ever saw. And then I saw the UFOs again in 2015, following me and tracking me, because I was learning about my secret space program stuff. I was still in the secret space program, and I was being tracked. I was just learning about the whole history of what happened to me. Why I was in the SSP, and I was just starting to understand that I didn't want to be in the SSP anymore. So I was looking for a way out from being in the SSP, honestly, during that time. And the craft, every night, I suspect they would beam me up through the jump portal technology that they have, or use the quantum leap time travel technology to put me on Mars and the moon. That happened to me. That's my testimony. That's my life story. This stuff happened to me, and if you're seeing UFOs, if you're being tracked by UFOs, if you feel like you're being abducted or taken somewhere into the programs or by extraterrestrials, ET, contact experiences, abductions, there will likely be a history of UFO sightings being reported in your area. So you can physically track where the major activity happens. That was in Kelowna. For me, British Columbia. And Kelowna is the second place I've lived after South Surrey and White Rock. And then I returned back to South Surrey and White Rock because that's the place where I want to live. But anywhere I go, the UFOs follow me. Now I just don't photograph them because I photographed everything that I could, every shape, every size, every color frequency. I photographed it all, and it's part of a project I'm working on with the thermal imaging, the actual photos and the thermal imaging showing the heat signatures of these crafts, all of the crafts. It's going to be part of a special book project I'm still working on. And yeah, it's taking me a while to figure this out, to research it, because I want to link the evidence together. But I wanted to show the maps of what this stuff looks like. And this is the second map. This is North Kelowna and Central Kelowna after the bridge. Look how much UFOs there is in this area. Again, UFOs everywhere. West Kelowna, couple of UFOs, North Kelowna and Central Kelowna, a dozen of the saucer-shaped UFOs and the triangular craft being reported. This is what folks physically report in sightings. And if you click on every UFO, it actually gives you a description of what they saw, what the thing looked like, the date, if there was any color, the way it was moving, the patterns, the behavior. It will tell you that. And this is on a site called UFO Stalker. Don't let the word stalker scare you away from this site, because it actually is very good at tracking UFOs and what people report in the sightings, how the UFOs looked like, what the behavior was of the crafts, where they were spotted, the colors, the frequency, the size, sometimes even pictures. They attach photos. So this website is really good for UFO tracking. This is North America, everywhere in North America, Canada, United States. Very detailed tracking of UFO reporting. So now we're going to switch to South Surrey, White Rock area and see the UFO stuff here. There's a lot of UFO sightings in Vancouver as well, and that's 2 hours away from me. That's our major city here. There's also UFOs in Edmonton, Alberta, Saskatchewan, but British Columbia seems to have the majority of it. There's stuff in Regina as well. But again, Vancouver, South Surrey, White Rock area, Washington, that seems to have a lot of UFO sightings. We also have Canada 411. We have a lot of missing people that go missing here. Hikers, hunters who hunt for elk. We've had a lot of guys go missing in Harrison Lake and Fire Mountain, up on Fire Mountain. Those are places 4 or 5 hours away from me, just driving up there. People going missing from the lake beaches in Harrison Lake at night, and the hunters' rifles and clothing being found, but no hunters. So people have gone missing, literally disappeared, and there's been UFO sightings in Harrison Lake and Fire Mountain. And then people go missing after that, after those sightings. When they go hunting, animals have been dragged out from the forests, literally a UFO picking up an elk in Washington state and dragging it away. So if you watch any of the missing 411 videos, the documentaries, all that stuff is in there, and British Columbia is mentioned in several cases for being notorious UFO hotspots and places of abduction by the Greys and the reptilians and the SSP stuff. That's not a coincidence. The locations where you live sometimes correspond with the abduction activities and UFO stuff happening in your communities. That's real. This is a real map. This is real UFO sightings and reporting of UFO phenomenon. So we'll go in another closer look. We'll have another closer look at these maps and see the reality of this. So this is a close-up of the Fraser Valley and Vancouver area. Vancouver has UFO sightings. Richmond has UFO sightings. Surrey has UFO sightings. White Rock has UFO sightings. Langley has UFO sightings beyond Abbotsford. Then you go to Bellingham. That's in America when you cross the border, because our border is very close where White Rock is to the Washington border to the US. There's UFO sightings. There's UFO sightings in Vancouver Island and Nanaimo. Every city and town in the Fraser Valley has UFO sightings, especially where I live. This is where I live. These are all cities I've been to and seen. Also, Coquitlam has a lot of UFO stuff going on. These are the saucer-shaped reportings on the saucer-shaped craft. But there's also the triangles in White Rock area. There's the triangles in White Rock, and a few, when you zoom in closer, a lot of saucer-shaped UFOs and the triangles. So this website does detailed tracking of the Fraser Valley stuff, the UFO sightings, and other places. I think the site also has worldwide mapping, not just the locations I'm mentioning. I'm mentioning these specific locations because this is where I live or have lived and seen UFOs and photographed UFOs physically at night with a professional DSLR digital camera. And I'm still getting weird looking craft, even with a DSLR camera, 80mm lens, zooming it in manually. And I had to take all the pictures manually because the autofocus won't photograph anything. It has to be done manually to get any photos of this stuff. I suspect it's because of the propulsion systems and the navigation systems, the warp drive engines, the crystalline engines, and the cells that these craft have. So it's not that easy to photograph them because it doesn't have a conventional system for propulsion, and it's shielded by a warp bubble. So what you're photographing can be the real image or an overlay what the UFO is projecting for you. I physically saw the triangles and the saucer-shaped craft, but how they got photographed looks different in appearance than what I was seeing with my eyes. And those were some weird pictures, and that'll be in the book. So, but I wanted to show the maps today specifically, because I'm doing mapping. You can see closer up here those triangular crafts, and I was mostly abducted by the triangular crafts, the TR6s. That Planetary Corp has it, and also now has TR10s. So this stuff is real, very much real. You cannot dispute evidence of what physically exists and what's being reported, being seen in these cities and environments by people, by normal people, during the day, at night, in the morning. There's a lot of UFO sightings in British Columbia. That's a fact. It's all here in the mapping. And I'm going to show you guys the reporting, what somebody said, the actual data. Black triangular sighting occurred 2018. This was, I believe, in June 27th at 1315 hours. That's when it occurred, reported 2018, June 28th at 1:02. Location, White Rock, British Columbia. So it was in White Rock, British Columbia. In the summary, odd orange glowing section. And if you click into the whole description, it will give you more details on the description. This is like just the blurb summary of the first triangular craft being reported on. And the second one here, that was also black triangular sighting, 2015, 0109, 220. That's when it occurred, reported 2015, 0109, 6 p.m. White Rock, British Columbia, triangle with blue lined markings on it. So they give you a description, and sometimes they can even include a picture. It's what the person chooses to include. If they took a picture, they can put it in there to this description. So the site is interesting. It's kind of thorough. I think it's thorough in what it shows, and it has the report, what the person actually reported in the sighting. So that's important, not just the area of the scope of how many UFOs were reported, but also the detailed information in the reporting. You can actually click on the descriptions to get more information on the description summary, and you'll get further details about these reports. This is just a summary of the maps, and this is a sample type of these reportings. I just wanted to show you what this stuff looks like and what it is, how this works. Tracking UFOs, reporting it, and the summaries, the actual reports on these maps of these locations where these UFOs have been spotted. Probably people have been abducted, have experienced weird things in these locations. I know I have. I've had portals open up and close in my house, beside my house, vortex energy, UFO sightings, UFO abductions, into the secret space program stuff, and probably much more that I'm not even aware of and don't really want to know about at this point. I pretty much know what I want to know in terms of my SSP history, extraterrestrial contacts, abductions. I've met Arcturians, Pleiadians, Andromedans. I've been up on craft. I've seen Pleiadian Arcturian crafts and Andromedan crafts and photographed those. And they're in the category of the light ships. They're not all SSP or negative ET abductions. I've had some positive experiences with Arcturians, Pleiadians, Andromedans on their light ships, their light craft, motherships, and I'm sure some of those crafts that I've photographed are also in that collection of photos. I've seen all kinds of different crafts and been on different crafts. So there's sightings of this activity going on where I've lived or live currently. This is real. This is my reality, what I've lived with. I'm just no longer constantly tracking the phenomenon that I'm part of, because I photographed every shape that I could in the examples. And I've shared those photos in other books, but this is going to be an expanded project with thermal imaging and other UFO stuff that people have shared with me or is in the public domain, to do a comparison and contrasting of these UFOs. So it's in other beings as well, reptilians and stuff like that, and portals. This will be in this project, and what the scope is, showing this type of stuff and what we're interacting with the supernatural, the paranormal phenomenon that's part of 3D and beyond 3D matrix. So I just wanted to today cover the UFO maps and the UFO sightings and the reporting aspect of this project. The other stuff, that's going to be in the book. I'm still working on it. It's a very interesting project. And again, what I've noticed the commonality is all of these UFOs have different heat sources. Green, orange, yellow, blue. Heat sources. A heat source with thermal imaging will actually show you that something is real, that something is physical in your environment, that you're seeing, you're photographing, or taking a video of. That stuff is real. And if it has thermal imaging, those color spectrums I just mentioned, that stuff is very much physically present in your environment, and you might be engaging with it in the phenomenon. So if it has a heat signature, it's an actual object or an actual being that's there physically present in your environment. That cannot be disputed. That is actually scientific ways of measuring UFO phenomenons in investigational cases, as well as UFO abductions, MET abductions. You can physically track a being or a UFO through night vision, through red, infrared vision, or green spectrum, thermal imaging. This is used in the ufology investigations, or CE5, tracking UFOs, connecting with UFOs. That's what's on the cameras, thermal imaging. Video cameras, DSLRs, that's what they're using. That's what the researchers and the scientists are using to track UFOs, to get them on camera or in photos. There's also applications that utilize thermal imaging, so you can see the heat signatures, what kind of spectrums they are in, what you're dealing with. So even if you didn't have thermal imaging on your camera or in the video, there's certain types of applications that will show you the thermal imaging in your photos, because it'll pick it up from the data within the photo. As long as you have a decent photo of the craft that you photographed, thermal imaging will show you where the heat signatures are and where the item is active, physically being present. So thank you so much, and namaste.